Millions of adults over 60 wake up every morning believing they're doing everything right, eating clean, staying active, and starting the day with the same breakfast they've trusted for decades. But if your legs feel weaker, if standing up takes more effort than it used to, it may not be age at all. The truth is shocking. The foods you think are protecting your muscles might actually be failing you. And here's the twist: almost no one talks about eggs don't even make the top 8 muscle-building foods for seniors. Because after 60, your body follows a completely different rulebook. Robert's story begins on an ordinary Tuesday morning, the same way it had begun for almost 30 years. He stood in his kitchen, humming softly while the pan warmed, cracking the same 2 eggs head trusted his whole adult life. For him, breakfast wasn't just food. It was routine, comfort, and a reminder that he was still in control of his day. He believed he was doing everything right, staying active, taking his medications, and sticking to what he thought was a perfectly healthy habit. But that morning, his legs felt unusually heavy. He brushed it off, assuming it was age catching up with him. Then, as he reached for his plate, his knees buckled, his vision blurred, and before he could understand what was happening, he collapsed onto the kitchen floor. The paramedics said his heart was under stress. The doctors said his arteries were tighter than they should be for someone who lived clean. His blood work told a story he never expected, and when they asked about his diet, Robert answered with full confidence, "I eat the same healthy breakfast every morning." That was the moment everything shifted, because what looked like a safe routine had quietly turned into a problem. Not because eggs are bad, not because he made one huge mistake, but because a handful of small habits he had repeated for decades were no longer working for the body he lived in today. There's something powerful about long-term habits, especially for people in their 60s and 70s. Behavioral science shows that after enough years, the brain stops viewing a habit as a choice and starts treating it as safety. Familiar equals safe. Change equals risk, even if the familiar thing is no longer helping you. And for older adults, that instinct becomes even stronger. The part of the brain that evaluates danger slows down, while the part that craves predictability becomes dominant. That's why Robert never questioned his breakfast. It wasn't just food, it was identity, stability, a promise that his day would start the same, no matter how much the world shifted around him. But here's the truth most seniors never hear. A habit that once protected you can slowly become outdated as your body changes, and Robert isn't alone. Millions of adults over 60 are following breakfast routines that used to work but don't anymore. Not because they're careless, but because no one ever explained the hidden risks that build up slowly, silently, one morning at a time. And that's where our journey begins. Because what happened to Robert is happening to so many others, without them realizing it. Let's begin with mistake number 10. And this one shocks almost everyone, because it feels like the cleaner choice. Many seniors wash their eggs the moment they get home, thinking they're removing dirt or protecting themselves from germs. But here's the part most people never learn. Every egg comes with a natural protective layer called the bloom. It seals the tiny pores in the shell and stops bacteria from slipping inside. The moment you wash that egg, you strip the bloom away. And once that barrier is gone, Salmonella can enter through microscopic cracks you can't see. Seniors are especially vulnerable because our immune systems weaken with age. The fix is simple. Never wash eggs before storing them. Keep them unwashed, in their original carton, in the coldest part of your fridge. Only rinse right before cooking. Mistake number 9 is another lifelong habit many people don't question. Storing eggs in the refrigerator door. It's convenient, it feels right, but it's actually one of the worst places for them. The door is the warmest area in your fridge because every time you open it, warm air rushes in. That constant temperature shift creates tiny cracks in the shell, cracks that are invisible but big enough for bacteria to sneak through. One viewer even wrote, "I've done this my entire life. Time to move my eggs to the main shelf." And they're absolutely right. Moving your eggs just a few inches from the door to the back of the fridge dramatically reduces bacterial growth. The solution? Store your carton on a stable, cold shelf where the temperature doesn't jump every time someone grabs milk. Mistake number 8 is about undercooked eggs, especially runny yolks. Many seniors grew up eating soft-boiled eggs or sunny side up, and it feels harmless. But undercooked yolks can carry salmonella, and that's a very serious risk for older adults. Seniors who get salmonella aren't just uncomfortable for a few days. Many require hospitalization because dehydration and electrolyte imbalances hit much harder after 60. Here is the science. Bacteria multiply every 20 minutes when conditions are warm and moist. A runny yolk is exactly that environment. The fix is straightforward. Cook eggs until both the whites and yolks are firm. If you enjoy softer textures, try coddled eggs or a gentle scramble. Still safe, still delicious. Mistake number 7 might be the most surprising everyday habit. Leaving cooked eggs out for more than 2 hours. It's easy to do. Maybe breakfast sits on the counter while you take a phone call. Maybe you pack lunch but forget your bag in the car. But after 2 hours at room temperature, eggs enter what food safety experts call the danger zone, between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, where bacteria thrive at incredible speed. One viewer commented, "I had no idea about the 2-hour rule. I'm printing this for my kitchen." And that's exactly why this matters. Seniors don't always feel early symptoms of food poisoning, and dehydration hits harder. The solution? Refrigerate leftovers quickly, and never leave cooked eggs sitting out until later. Mistake number 6 is something many people rely on, especially those who grew up before modern expiration labels. The float test. You place the egg in water. If it floats, it's bad. If it sinks, it's good. But here's the truth. The float test only shows how much air is inside the egg, not whether bacteria have already grown. Older adults, in particular, often can't detect the subtle smell of spoilage as easily as younger people can. That means a sunken egg can still be unsafe. One viewer admitted, "I've been using the float test for years. Didn't know it could be wrong." The fix is to trust the printed date, and even then, use eggs within 3 to 5 weeks of purchase. Store them cold, keep them in their carton. And don't rely on smell or intuition. Those senses fade with age. Here's the bigger picture. None of these mistakes feel dangerous in the moment. They're small, they're familiar. They're things we picked up from parents, friends, or habits formed decades ago. But for seniors, small food safety errors stack up quickly. A warm refrigerator door, a washed egg, a runny yolk, a forgotten plate on the counter, a misleading float test. They seem harmless, but together they quietly increase the risk of infection, inflammation, and illness. And what surprises most people is that these little mistakes are often the ones they've been making their entire lives without ever realizing the impact. Now, as we move into the next section, things get even more concerning. Because the next mistakes don't just affect food safety. They directly affect your arteries, your heart, and your long-term health. Let's go deeper. Let's move into mistake number 5. And this is where things start shifting from simple food safety to the deeper science of aging. Many seniors cook their eggs in generous amounts of butter or oil because that's how they've always done it. It feels harmless. It tastes familiar. But here's the danger most people never consider. Those extra fats accelerate the natural stiffening of your arteries. As we age, our blood vessels lose elasticity. They don't widen and contract as easily as they used to. When you layer saturated fats on top of that day after day, breakfast after breakfast, you speed up the very process that raises blood pressure and increases plaque buildup. Studies show that saturated fats can raise LDL cholesterol, the type that sticks to artery walls. And it doesn't take much. Even 1 tablespoon of butter adds more than a day's worth of saturated fat for someone who already has heart disease. That's why mistake number 5 matters so much for seniors. The arteries are already more fragile, already more vulnerable. The fix? Switch to olive oil or, even better, non-stick cooking with very minimal added fat. You still get your eggs, but without that daily push toward hardened arteries. Now we enter the top 4, and this is where the science becomes even more surprising. Mistake number 4 is eating too many eggs without understanding what's happening inside your bloodstream. Many people believe eggs are the perfect protein, but few realize they're also one of the richest sources of dietary cholesterol and choline. Cholesterol is familiar. High levels increase plaque in the arteries. But choline is the part most people never hear about. And it's the reason this mistake is so dangerous for older adults. Inside your gut, certain bacteria convert choline into a compound called TMAO. And TMAO behaves very differently from cholesterol. It doesn't just add to plaque, it changes the way plaque forms, making it stickier, harder, and more inflammatory. It's like switching from dust to cement inside your arteries. And that brings us to something almost no senior has ever been told. There are invisible forces at work in your bloodstream, forces you can't feel or see, but that shape your heart health every single day. TMAO is one of them. At age 60 and beyond, the lining of your arteries becomes thinner and more sensitive. When TMAO rises, it doesn't cause pain. It doesn't cause nausea. It doesn't cause any symptom at all. Instead, it fuels silent inflammation, the kind that narrows arteries millimeter by millimeter. Researchers have found that people with high TMAO levels face a significantly higher risk of heart attack and stroke, even when their cholesterol looks normal. And for seniors, elevated TMAO also slows recovery after a cardiac event. That's why eating multiple eggs every single day becomes so risky, not because eggs are bad, but because the body that's digesting them is different now than it was at 30. Here is the good news. TMAO is something you can influence. Reducing your weekly egg intake, increasing fiber, drinking more water, adding salmon or almonds, these simple changes help lower TMAO levels dramatically. You're not giving up eggs. You're using them wisely, protecting your arteries instead of overwhelming them. So, as we move forward into mistake number 3, we're stepping fully into the world where food, medications, and aging biology collide. And for seniors, that collision can be deadly if you don't know it's happening. Let's break it down. Mistake number 3 is one most seniors never see coming. It's the quiet collision between everyday foods and the medications that keep your heart, your blood, and your bones stable. And the reason this mistake is so dangerous is simple. The symptoms don't warn you. There's no sudden pain, no dizziness, no clear signs something is going wrong. The effects build slowly, silently, and sometimes with life-changing consequences. Let's start with one of the most common interactions, vitamin K and warfarin. Many seniors take warfarin to prevent blood clots. It works by thinning the blood to a safe, steady level. But vitamin K has the opposite effect. It helps your blood clot. And while eggs don't contain extremely high amounts of vitamin K, pairing them with spinach, kale, or fortified foods at breakfast can throw your levels off. Even small changes in vitamin K intake can alter how warfarin works, making your blood either too thin or not thin enough. That's why consistency, not elimination, is key. If you're on warfarin, keep your vitamin K intake steady from day to day, and let your doctor know about any new breakfast habits you're adding in. Now, here's another interaction that surprises most people: eggs and statins. Statins help lower cholesterol, but they don't stop the cholesterol you eat from affecting your levels. When seniors eat multiple eggs every day, especially alongside butter, bacon, or cheese, they often overwhelm the very medication meant to protect them. Statins reduce production of cholesterol inside the liver, but dietary cholesterol still enters the bloodstream, adding to the load. Over time, this reduces the effectiveness of the medication, and many seniors don't realize their daily breakfast may be working against their prescription. The fix is simple. Balance. Limit egg intake to a few times per week and pair them with fiber-rich sides that help reduce cholesterol absorption. And there's one more interaction most doctors simply don't have time to explain: calcium and antibiotics. Older adults often take calcium supplements for bone health or eat calcium-rich foods like yogurt and fortified cereals at breakfast. But certain antibiotics, especially fluoroquinolones and tetracyclines, bind to calcium in the stomach. When that happens, the medication can't be absorbed properly. You may take the pill, but only a fraction reaches your bloodstream. That means a weaker treatment, a longer recovery, and in some cases, antibiotic resistance. The solution? Space them apart. Keep calcium foods at least 2 to 4 hours away from these antibiotics to make sure the medication works the way it's supposed to. Here is why mistake number 3 matters so much. Seniors often take multiple medications, often at multiple times of day, and small food choices can shift how those medications behave. And because these interactions are silent, most people never realize what's happening until their doctor says, "Your levels are off," or "This medication isn't controlling things like it used to." The good news is that these issues are completely preventable. A few timing adjustments, a few smarter pairings, and your medications can work at full strength, protecting your heart, your circulation, and your long-term health. Now let's move to mistake number 2, and this one affects nearly every classic American breakfast. It's the meal combination that creates a perfect storm for your arteries. Let's break it down. Mistake number 2 is the breakfast combination that so many seniors grew up believing was hearty, comforting, and harmless. But when you put eggs, bacon, butter, and hash browns on the same plate, you're not just having breakfast, you're creating a perfect storm for your arteries. And this is the moment when many viewers comment, "Finally, someone talked about the deadly combo." Because this isn't about one food. It's about what happens when all 4 hit your bloodstream at once. Here is why this matters. Eggs on their own deliver cholesterol. Bacon adds saturated fat, sodium, and nitrites. Butter stacks on even more saturated fat. And hash browns, especially when pan-fried, are often cooked in oils that oxidize at high temperatures. Each of these foods carries a small burden, but together, they amplify each other in a way most seniors never realize. Let's break down the numbers. A typical 2-egg breakfast provides about 370 milligrams of cholesterol. Add 3 strips of bacon, and you tack on another 90 milligrams. That's already over the recommended daily limit for adults with heart concerns. Then add a tablespoon of butter, another 7 grams of saturated fat, and hash browns cooked in reused or overheated oil, which can produce inflammatory compounds linked to arterial damage. In total, this single breakfast can deliver the same cholesterol load as 3 full days of heart-healthy eating. And for someone over 60, whose arteries naturally stiffen with age, that impact hits harder and lingers longer. Here's the hidden danger. Seniors often eat this combo after an overnight fast, when the bloodstream is most sensitive to a surge of fats. Studies show that post-meal spikes in cholesterol and triglycerides can thicken the blood, slow circulation, and temporarily impair the function of the cells that line your arteries. Over time, those repeated spikes contribute to plaque buildup and inflammation, the very conditions that lead to heart attacks and strokes. But the real problem is how normal this breakfast feels. Many people say, "I've been eating this for years, and I feel fine." And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. The damage is slow, silent, accumulating day after day. The good news is, you don't have to give up flavor or the foods you enjoy. Small tweaks, lighter cooking methods, better fats, more fiber can turn that storm into something far less harmful. But before we rebuild breakfast, we need to talk about the biggest myth of all. Mistake number 1 is the belief nearly every senior has held for decades. The idea that eggs alone can build the strength your body desperately needs after 60. Let's dig into why that belief is holding so many people back. Mistake number 1 is the belief almost every senior has held for decades, the idea that eggs alone can keep your muscles strong. And this is where everything comes full circle. Because if your legs feel weaker, if standing up from a chair takes effort, or if stairs feel steeper than they used to, the problem isn't your age. It's that your body isn't getting the protein it truly needs, especially after 60. Here's the truth most people never hear. Your muscles don't care how healthy a food sounds. They only respond to one thing: enough usable protein in a single meal. And for seniors, that target isn't small. Most experts agree you need about 25 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast alone to stimulate muscle building. But 2 eggs? They only give you around 12 grams. Even 3 eggs barely reach 18. To hit the real requirement using eggs alone, you'd need 11 to 14 eggs every single day. No one is doing that. No one should do that. This is why so many older adults experience gradual muscle loss, weaker legs, slower balance, and more frequent falls, and never connect it back to breakfast. For years, they believed they were eating enough. But the real problem isn't the quantity of eggs. It's that the body after 60 operates under a different rule book. Your ability to absorb and use protein drops by 20 to 40% with age. So even if you think you're eating plenty, your muscles are receiving far less than you imagine. And that gap becomes fatigue, shakier steps, and that feeling of losing strength long before you should. But here is why this matters even more. When your legs weaken, everything in your life changes. Your independence, your mobility, your confidence walking outside or carrying groceries your entire day becomes shaped by how strong your muscles are. And relying on eggs alone simply can't meet the needs of a body that's working harder now than it did at 30 or 40. The good news is, this isn't a failure on your part. You were never told the truth about muscle metabolism after 60. And fixing this doesn't mean abandoning the foods you love. It means building a breakfast that actually delivers enough protein to support your strength, your balance, and your life. So now that we've uncovered the biggest myth of all, let's talk about how to rebuild your morning routine without breaking the habits you've held for 30 years. Let's make breakfast work for your muscles, not against them. Rebuilding your breakfast doesn't mean throwing away everything you've done for the last 30 years. It simply means upgrading what's already familiar so your body gets what it actually needs after 60. And the good news is that these changes are gentle, practical, and completely doable without giving up eggs. Step 1 is adding a real protein anchor to your morning. Remember, your muscles need about 25 to 30 grams at breakfast to switch on strength-building mode. 2 eggs get you partway there, but not enough. So pair them with something that closes the gap. A scoop of Greek yogurt, a half cup of cottage cheese, a slice of lean turkey, or even a small protein shake. You're not replacing eggs, you're strengthening the meal around them. Step 2 is swapping out the hidden troublemakers. Many seniors don't realize their breakfast became a silent trigger over the years, not because of the eggs, but because of everything cooked with them. Bacon, butter, and greasy hash browns load your arteries with saturated fat before the day even begins. You don't need a full overhaul, just shift to lighter sides, fruit, whole grains, or air-fried potatoes. These small swaps reduce inflammation and protect your heart without changing your entire routine. Step 3 is smoothing out the cooking method. Instead of frying eggs in a thick layer of butter or oil, try poaching, soft scrambling, or using a non-stick pan with a light spray. You'll get the same comfort and taste, but without the heavy fats that accelerate vascular aging. And step 4 is the mindset shift that ties everything together. For 30 years, your breakfast wasn't wrong, it just wasn't calibrated for the body you have today. After 60, absorption drops, muscle response slows, and your heart and blood vessels need a gentler start to the morning. None of that is your fault. It simply means your breakfast needs to work a little smarter now. When you upgrade your morning this way, something powerful happens. Your energy lasts longer, your legs feel steadier, and the habits you've trusted for decades finally begin supporting the strength and health you deserve. So let's take that familiar breakfast you've loved for years and turn it into the foundation of a stronger day ahead. As we come toward the end, there's one truth I want you to hold on to. Your body at 60 is not the same body you had at 30, and that is not your fault. It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's simply biology changing with time. And this is where a lot of people blame the wrong thing. They think the food itself turned against them. But the real issue isn't the eggs, or the breakfast, or the habits you've trusted for decades. It's the way your body now processes those foods: slower absorption, lower muscle response, more sensitive blood vessels. The food didn't become harmful. The rules just changed, and no one ever explained them to you. For years, seniors like Robert were told they were doing everything right. He exercised, took his medications, and ate the same breakfast he had relied on for 30 years. No doctor ever sat him down to say, "Your needs are different now." No one told him his morning routine might not be protecting him the way it once did. And that's how someone who tried his best still ended up in a crisis he never saw coming. So if you're watching this and thinking, "I should have known better," please hear this clearly. You didn't do anything wrong. You simply weren't given the information you deserved. Your body today isn't weaker, it's asking for a different kind of support. And now that you understand how your heart, muscles, and metabolism change after 60, you can finally give it what it needs, just like Robert did. Because once he understood the new rules, everything shifted: his energy, his strength, his confidence. And the same can happen for you, starting with the choices you make tomorrow morning. After everything we've uncovered today, I want to leave you with a simple reminder. Change is possible at any age. Robert is proof of that. Within just a few months of adjusting his breakfast routine, his cholesterol dropped, his energy came back, and even his morning walks felt easier. Not because he gave up the foods he loved, but because he learned how to use them in a way that actually supported his heart and his muscles. And the same future is available to you. You now know the 10 mistakes. You know how they happen, why they matter, and most importantly, how to fix them starting tomorrow morning. So here is what I'd love from you. Scroll down and comment which mistake you were making. Was it number 4, number 7, or maybe number 1, the one almost everyone misses? Type the number 110. Your comment might be the reason someone else over 60 realizes they've been doing the same thing. And if this video helped you understand your body better, go ahead and like it, subscribe for more simple guidance, and share it with a parent, a friend, or anyone you care about over 60. Today, you choose to protect your heart, and that choice matters more than you know.